62-year-old Lysander, semi-retired architect, reflects on his marriage of 28 years with Marcella, his wife who once worked as a junior accountant in one of his projects. Despite 4 decades of designing structures that stand the test of time, he realizes the unseen aspects are crucial, such as foundations and support systems, hidden until they're gone. Lysander thought their marriage was solid, but people change, foundations shift, cracks can remain invisible until everything collapses. Approximately 8 months ago, the first indication of trouble arose. Marcella began discussing retirement in a manner that was unprecedented, detailed, and pressing. She proposed consolidating every account, investment, asset into a single joint fund. By nature, I'm not a suspicious person. I design buildings to endure. I value permanence, commitment. So when she initially suggested it during dinner one night, I didn't give it much thought. "Lysander," she said, twirling her wine as she often did before making a case, "we need to start considering our golden years seriously. We're not getting any younger." I acknowledged this was true. "I've been looking at properties," she continued. "Lake houses, somewhere tranquil where we can spend our later years together, just you and me." It sounded appealing. Indeed, it did sound so. After years of work, raising children, and navigating daily life's turbulence, the thought of a serene lakeside retreat was genuinely enticing. "What exactly were you envisioning?" I inquired. Her eyes sparkled. "There's this villa approximately 2 hours away, right on the lake," she replied. "It's ideal, Lysander, absolutely ideal. However, the cost is substantial. We'd have to combine all our resources for the down payment and the balloon payment at closing." This method of expression struck me as peculiar. Combine all our resources, as if our finances were never separate. In actuality, they had been, not due to distrust, but practicality. My consulting income was erratic. Large payments would arrive sporadically. We maintained a shared account for household expenses, but my business earnings went into accounts I managed individually. This had always been the arrangement. Marcella hadn't seemed to mind before, until now. "Our money is your money," she said, extending her hand across the table towards mine. "Following so many years, isn't it past due for us to cease the tally?" Her tone held an indeterminable sharpness. I attributed it to enthusiasm about the house. "Let me ponder on it," I replied. During the ensuing weeks, she frequently revisited the subject. The villa, the lake, our shared future, these were her recurring themes. She persistently urged me to move my consulting earnings into a joint retirement account she had prepared. Each time, she asserted, "Your funds are ours." This phrase transformed from a sentiment of unity into a recurring incantation, a charm she seemed to be weaving. I began to scrutinize in ways I hadn't before, subtle signs. She was more guarded with her phone than typical. She had taken to attending book club meetings twice a week, yet never appeared to read anything. She sported new garments that I couldn't recall her purchasing. I must confess, I am not inherently suspicious, but I am perceptive. In 4 decades of architecture, one learns to spot structural issues swiftly. On a Tuesday afternoon, the discovery was made. Marcella stepped out to get her hair styled. She left her shared iPad on the kitchen counter. I glanced at it to check the weather and saw her email still open. I almost closed it, but a subject line seized my attention. "Villa closing, final steps." A foreboding feeling had been growing for months about this very matter. I opened the email. It was from a real estate developer named Henderson, revealing details about the villa. Marcella often spoke of the lakeside property and dream home. However, the proposed deed wasn't in our names. It bore Marcella's name and one Darienne's. After 3 reads to ensure I comprehended correctly, I discovered that the closing was scheduled in 2 weeks. $475,000, the final installment of the balloon payment, was due upon signing. Most of this sum was sourced from our shared retirement fund, my funds, being used to purchase a house for my wife and another man. I skimmed through the email correspondence. There were messages dating back several months, affectionate exchanges between Marcella and Darienne, mapping out their future in the home I would financially support. They had been together for 2 years, 2 long years. After reading, I remained seated at the kitchen counter for a considerable time. The tablet screen flickered off. The refrigerator droned. A bird chirped outside the window. In such moments, what does a man do? While some may explode in anger, destroy property, or confront instantaneously, I am not that kind of man. Instead, I construct, I create, meticulously planning, with care, with accuracy. Each structural element perfectly positioned. If my marriage had been a construction, it would have been fatally undermined long ago. There was no hope for salvation, but the destruction could be managed, guided, deliberate. I switched on the iPad screen again. I captured every email, every message, every shred of proof. Then I exited the email app and placed the device back in its original spot. Upon Marcella's return with her newly styled hair, I praised her. I told her she looked stunning. "Have you given any further thought to the villa?" she inquired. I smiled at her. With 28 years of marriage, she couldn't decipher my facial expressions at all. "Indeed, I have," I replied. "You're correct, your funds are our funds. I'll move my next consulting payment into the joint account tomorrow." The expression on her face was one of triumph. She had no idea she was observing the mastermind of her own collapse. That night I didn't rest. I sat in my home office, the door securely locked, and devised strategies. The following morning, my phone alerted me with a message. A substantial consulting check had been deposited into my business account. $340,000 allocated for a hospital renovation project I was consulted on. Marcella's words echoed in my mind. "Your funds are our funds." 30 minutes following this message, I found myself logged into my banking interface. Rather than transferring the money to our shared account, I transferred it to a blind trust I had set up the previous day, one in my name alone, a trust Marcella was unaware of and couldn't access. To convey my intentions, I made a small deposit of $15 into our joint account. In the memo section, I wrote, "For the dream." This evening, Marcella noticed the deposit alert. Assuming the substantial transfer would follow separately, she didn't inquire further. Preoccupied by texting on her phone and smiling at the screen, she was too engrossed to ask questions. Over the next 10 days, I found myself quite busy. I contacted Henderson, a real estate developer with whom I had prior dealings. It transpired that we had crossed paths years ago. I had designed a small commercial building for one of his projects during the early phase of my professional journey. He held me in affectionate regard. We arranged for lunch. I disclosed my inclination towards real estate ventures. More specifically, I was keen on acquiring mortgage notes. Happily, he had something suitable. There was a lakeside villa with an upcoming balloon payment. The existing financing was handled by a small, local lender eager to sell some notes. The property's owner was a woman named Marcella, who co-purchased it with a man called Darian. I signaled my intention. The mortgage note cost $600,000, an amount readily accessible in my blind trust, along with extra funds from investments Marcella remained unaware of. I purchased the note on a Thursday, and the closing was set for Saturday. Are you aware of what it implies to own a mortgage note? It implies that you function as the bank. It means the borrower owes you the money. It means if they fail to make a payment or default on closing, you can seize the property. Without her knowledge, you acquired the mortgage on her dream home. She assumed you were idly at home while she readied for a fresh start, unaware that you were the husband. The day of closing was set. This I learned because Marcella mentioned a spa retreat with her friends. She kissed my cheek goodbye, adorned in a new dress and carrying champagne. "I'll return tomorrow evening," she said. "Don't wait for me, enjoy yourself," I replied, watching her depart. Then I drove to the developer's office, where Henderson had granted you permission to witness the closing. He was aware of the circumstances and perhaps even admired your maneuvers. In a secluded office, I waited as Marcella and Darian arrived. Through the wall, their voices echoed, filled with joy and anticipation. Marcella's voice sounded hopeful, while Darian's tones were possessive, already behaving like the estate owner. The closing papers were ready when they arrived. Henderson clarified the conditions. A balloon payment of $475,000 was due immediately. Marcella presented a cashier's check dramatically. She obtained it from their shared account, which she assumed held my consulting payment. Henderson accepted the check, inspected it, then departed to make a call. Upon return, he looked regretful, stating, "I'm sorry, this check cannot be cashed. Insufficient funds." Although I wasn't present, I have often visualized this scene. Marcella's expression of confusion, denial, and eventual shock. "That's impossible," she said. "There should be approximately $300,000 in that account." Henderson disagreed, confirming only $15 and change, $15 for the dream. Marcella attempted to negotiate, proposing to deposit the required amount within a week. She begged, debated, but Henderson explained the closing date was legally binding. By not providing the funds, she was in breach of contract. According to the agreement, she lost her deposit, which was $100,000, a sum that represented her entire life savings. Apparently, she had been saving it covertly for years. Then Henderson uttered the words I'd long anticipated, "Yet the property has found a new owner." The mortgage note was bought by a private investor who decided to finalize the deal entirely. He's arrived now to receive the keys. The door swung open. I stepped in, acknowledging Henderson and taking the folder that contained the deed and the villa's keys. Marcella's complexion turned pale, not reddish or rosy. It seemed as if all her blood had simultaneously vanished. Lysander, she murmured faintly. Darien stood next to her. He looked at Marcella, then at me, then back again. I could see him doing the sums in his mind. It became clear that the worth of their romantic partner had plummeted, even sinking below zero. She had just lost everything, yet still stood beside the man who held the keys to their potential love abode. Turning to Marcella, I stated, "You were correct about one matter. The money was for this house. However, since I paid for it, I will be taking the keys." Pausing, I looked at both of them. "You have 10 minutes to leave my premises." Darien acted first, taking his briefcase and exiting without a word to Marcella, just as before. 2 years of what she believed was love dissolved the moment she became a liability instead of an asset. Marcella began to cry. "I'm not a heartless man. I did not take pleasure in her tears, but I also felt nothing. After 28 years, I felt nothing. That is the consequence of betrayal. It strips you empty." "Why?" she questioned weakly. "How did you discover this?" I replied. "Your iPad was left unlocked 8 months ago, a detail I've been aware of since then. The past 8 months have been spent planning, observing her strategies, and constructing a countermeasure around her. She had no inkling of it coming. She didn't even suspect." Henderson coughed. "Mrs. Marcella, Mr. Darien has exited the building. You must leave as well. Mr. Lysander legally owns this property now, approximately at this moment." Mrs. Marcella looked at me one last time, searching for an emotion in my expression, perhaps anger or hurt. She found none. I had concealed it months ago. Without another word, she left the office, destined to become a part of my lake house, a house that was once chosen by my unfaithful wife and her lover, now mine. Henderson offered me a glass of water. "Quite a spectacle," he commented. I nodded in agreement. I examined the keys in my grasp. "Architecture," I remarked, "is fundamentally about structural soundness. You demolish the incorrect wall, the entire structure collapses." He didn't fully comprehend. That was fine. I comprehended. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. My lawyer was exceptional. The evidence I had amassed was thorough. Marcella attempted to dispute it, but the emails, the screenshots, the proof of the villa scheme, it was overwhelming. She left with barely anything. I informed my children about it all. They were adult by then with their own families. They were devastated, but they supported my actions. I spend most of my time at the lake house now. It truly is stunning, just as Marcella had described it. Misty mornings over the water, bird songs at dawn, an abundance of tranquility and quiet. Occasionally, I ponder on the porch about structures, foundations, and the unseen elements maintaining balance. My marriage had a decaying foundation. Deceit had been corroding it for years, hidden from my sight. When I unearthed the truth, I faced a decision. I could allow the edifice to crumble haphazardly, causing widespread destruction. Alternatively, I could opt for a planned demolition, meticulous, accurate, and purposeful. I chose deliberateness. Some may label my actions revenge. I prefer to view it as renovation, dismantling a dilapidated building to make way for something more robust in its stead. My life is tranquil, uncomplicated, truthful. I engage in projects that intrigue me. I spend time with my grandchildren. I admire the sunset over the lake from the porch of my villa, Marcella's villa, the one she selected for herself and her lover. Now mine. I don't harbor hatred towards her. Hatred demands effort, investment, emotional involvement. Marcella was just a chapter in my past, a closed book. Yet occasionally I ponder about her. I wonder if she ever reminisces about the turning point when our relationship shattered. Not the instance of my discovery, but the time, 2 years prior, when she chose to deceive me. The moment she scrutinized our life and deemed it insufficient. The moment she initiated her plan of escape on a bed of falsehoods. She believed herself to be an architect. She was mistaken. A lesson seems to emerge from this, I believe. For anyone who may be observing, for those in comparable circumstances, trust your intuition, keep vigilant. Detect when the foundation shows signs of instability. And if you uncover that someone has been sabotaging the framework of your life, don't explode with anger. Don't succumb to fear. Instead, remain patient, be systematic, be meticulous. Design your reaction as if constructing a building, ensuring every support is in its proper place. Every wall built for structural support, crafted to precision. At a designated moment, watch it crumble precisely as planned. I am 62 years old with around 20 years of good health left. Maybe even more if I'm fortunate. I plan to spend these years peacefully, honestly, and on my own terms. The lake is enchanting at this time, with mist appearing at dawn, birds chirping, and somewhere out there, Marcella lives dealing with the repercussions of her actions. "Your funds are shared funds," she said. Yes, they were. Now the house belongs to me. If you're watching this and have been deceived, remember this. The agony is fleeting, the rage is fleeting, but the decisions you make in response will endure. Make them wisely, plan meticulously, execute precisely, and always remain unpredictable. This is Lysander. Thank you for being a part of my narrative. By the way, the villa is charming.